Hi guys, it's Danielle here again from Evelyn and Sage Avenue, back for another project for Ruby Tuesday, which of course means I'll be using Heather's Digitals from Ruby&Pearlxo. So something a little bit different today. Usually when I look at Heather's Digitals it prompts all kinds of pretty ideas with loads of florals and dainty kind of lace and French kind of feel, but I thought I'd try something a little different and create these ID cards. My main inspiration came from Tim Holtz's photo booth products. So I believe he sells packs of photographs that are in photo booth style, so it might be strips of photos. The basic idea being a vintage photograph on a black border, just to appear as if it's come from a photo booth. But I thought I'd try and create my own with Heather's lovely digitals, and I really like how they turned out. So she had so many vintage images to choose from, so the main thing was just picking what I wanted to work with. I had so much choice. So in almost every one of Heather's kits she generally does include a vintage photograph, if not a handful. But if you didn't want to look through different kits to find a photograph you like, she does have kits dedicated to vintage ladies. So she's got a couple of kits, and it will be an A4 piece of paper with at least 40 photographs on of different vintage images, just like the one I've got here. Now I have sized them down. You needn't do that, but obviously just for the sake of this project I needed a lot smaller of an image. So depending on what your printer settings are or how great you are on Photoshop or any editing tool, you can just maybe print 4 to a page. So you could print 4 different A4 pieces to 1 page, and that should size them down for you. I know Heather at Rose Hill Paper Cottage has got a video on downsizing images and resizing them. If it's not Rose Hill Paper Cottage, I think Ruby and Pearl has one. So it's one of the Heathers. They definitely have a video, and if I can find it, I'll link it down below for you. So my main idea was to recreate these photo booth images. So just kind of singling out that image on a black background. That was where my idea started. I didn't start with the intention of making a photo card. I did have loads of ideas that kind of sprung from this photo booth idea, but it just so happens that I've wanted to make these ID cards for a while, so I thought, well, this would be the perfect project to do that. I specifically chose images with more of a plain background or a black background, just to take away from the busyness, and usually a photo booth would have a plain background, or an ID card would call for a plain background. So that was my thought process between selecting the photos, but really you needn't follow that. You could choose any photo if you want and then just kind of crop it to the shoulders upwards. And even if this isn't quite your style, you could quite easily add a lot of florals to this concept, just using the concept of the card, an ID card, and adding florals into it. I started that way. I did experiment with some florals, but it just so happened that I wanted to keep it, I'd say original looking, but they're not really original looking, but I just wanted to keep it pared down. Basic concept of using the stamps and using the photo, and that's it really. But like I said, I had to fussy cut some florals, so I did experiment with mounting the florals behind the card. So all I did was cut out some florals from Heather's wallpaper kits, so just fussy cut those and collaged them behind the photo. If you weren't to take anything from this video apart from the concept of creating your own photo booth cards, you can do so much with them. I had loads of ideas sparked from just this little concept. I think they'd look amazing on tags. You can make them into paper clips, dressed up paper clips with some fabric in the background, little journal embellishments. I think this would really be a nice collage piece just to add to anything. And I think the fact that it looks like a photo booth card is a nice enough idea in itself. When I mounted these images originally, I mounted 3 at a time to this black background card in a strip, unintentionally. It's just the way I happened to glue them down, and they did all look like they were from a photo booth. So you could even keep them as a strip and maybe use a few different images just on one strip, and then you've got just a cool idea of a photo booth image still in its strip form. Another idea I had was to keep the background, so keep the layered kind of squares as background, maybe 2 or 3. So these ones I've only got the black background on, but on some of the larger ones I've got this pinkish background as well. So you could keep these 2 layers then a plain layer. So remove the photograph, ignore the photograph, and just put a smaller plain layer there, so maybe a white piece or another pinkish piece, and then mount a fussy cut flower there. So I did experiment with, it was after the fact, I'd already glued them all down, already had all my photographs, and I thought, oh, a rose would look really nice as a focal image, almost like an ID card for a species of rose. So you could do that as well. So you don't need to use the photographs. You could add a floral touch by using an image of a flower as the ID card. I really like that concept too. So guys, for you guys that are already familiar with how to make these cards, because it's the most simple kind of concept ever, especially if you've got stamps to hand, there is no rhyme or reason really using the stamps I've used. It's not an official ID card, it certainly doesn't look like one, but it does have that kind of a feel, and that's all I was going for. And you find a lot of people that do make them, as long as it's got the look and feel of one, that's pretty much all we need really. So if you've got stamps to hand, it's about using what you've got. So I have used stamps from loads of different stamp collections that I've got. There's some Tim Holtz in there, there's some Sam Paul stamps in there, and I've just mixed and matched them. I haven't got a line stamp, so these lines were created from a Sam Paul stamp. It was a date that so happened to have a line underneath it, so I just applied ink to the line and not to the date. So there are my lines. A little bit fiddly to actually put down in the right place and make sure I've only got ink on the line, but to be fair, once I got started I got the knack of it. So it's about kind of reusing your stamps in a way that is convenient for you, so you don't have to have specific stamps, you didn't have to have the word identification, you know, you can kind of just work with what you've got. So brilliant if you've got stamps to hand, just kind of use them freely, don't think about it too much. I generally followed the rule of stamping identification on everything, making sure I've got something that sort of looks like a signature. I've got somebody's name up there, but again, that was 1, 2, 3 different stamps that I just put together. Making sure I've got some lines. You'll see everyone does have a line, everyone does have a signature looking stamp on there, everyone has an identification, and everyone has a circular stamp where it looks like it's been, I don't know, registered or dated. So that's the general concept I followed, and then once I'd figured out that, didn't really matter what kind of stamps I used. And of course ID cards wouldn't have an actual postage stamp on them, but I liked how it looked, so who cares? It's about what we like and what we enjoy doing, so I thought it looked really cool, so I added a postage stamp. And obviously we've just got some kind of inked tape there. You guys, I'm sure, know how to make this tape by now. There are many videos out there showing you how to do it, but basic concept here, it's just normal tape and some alcohol ink. Tim Holtz has actually just, I think it's very recently been released. Tim Holtz has released some of this tape. Of course he'd make some of that tape, and it's amazing, so I'm yet to get some. But if you didn't want to make some, or you didn't have any alcohol ink, Tim Holtz does sell this tape, and it's fantastic. It looks amazing. So I'm going to start with the photographs. We've already been through that. She's got so many to choose from. I'll list a couple of the kits I used in the description box. So that's your starting point with your ID photo or your photo booth photo. And then she's got document kits. She's got them in many different colours. She's got them in green, blue, kind of your crafty colours, and pink, which I used today. So she's got a document kit with a plain pink background, so I printed that, and that's what I used just to mount the photo cards. And I obviously distressed them a little bit with some I think vintage photo distress ink, but it was just something that wasn't as stark as using white. So that's that one. And then I wanted to talk about, obviously you've got your black card, which I used to mount those. So this is out of a photo album, I think, but you could obviously just use black craft card. And then last of all, super excited, not really, is a craft piece of paper. So my tip, I love doing this, is printing colour on craft paper, if you are able to do that. So circling back to Heather's document kits, this is that pink document kit that I just shown you, printed on craft paper, and it might look craft if you just looked at it on its own. Okay, that's just a brown piece of card. It's actually got a pink tint to it, and you can tell when you actually pair it next to craft stock. A little bit more obvious is the green. So as I said, she's got green document kits and she's got plain backgrounds that are just green. But if you print it on craft paper, it just gives that nice kind of tone of like an aged piece of ephemera. And another thing that I really enjoy about printing on craft stock is when you distress them. So I use Tim Holtz's little sanding pads. He does like circular sanding pads that we attach to our kind of distress dabbers. When you sand away and distress the edges, you don't uncover white as you would with a normal piece of paper. You uncover that lovely kind of craft colour. And that's a little thing I do all of the time. And I think it's really effective. It's simple but effective. So you really don't need to do much more to them. So how I created the aged edging with these is I distress them with, I think, a pink distress ink. I don't use it very often at all. I think it might even be the first time I've used it. It's not really for me, but I thought it looked nice on the craft card. So I used a pink very lightly, then I used Vintage Photo very lightly, and then I used my little sanding pad around the edges and folded it in half as I just distressed some of the fold. I've done that to all of them, so I folded them in half just so it kind of looks like they've been kept in somebody's kind of like passport pocket or something like that, you know. I don't really know, but I've just folded them all and it did really add to the overall look. And then just followed my kind of theory of adding my lines, adding my signature, adding my circle stamp, and then kind of played after that, just added whatever I like to fill in any gaps. That was really it, really. So I suggest if you do have stamps, to play with, by all means. It's super easy. And when I put my first stamp down, I was like, oh, this is not really working how I wanted it to. But the more you add, the more it comes together. So just, if you haven't tried it before and you kind of don't really like it to begin with, the more stamping you add, the more it pulls everything together and starts to look as you'd kind of imagined. But if you don't have stamps, because I acknowledge not everybody has a collection of stamps, but if you like the concept and didn't have stamps, first of all, if you've got nice handwriting, then problem solved. You can write your own little and draw your own little lines on there. But Heather has loads of document kits. She has ledger kits. She's got envelope kits, all with fancy writing now and block writing, and she's got telegrams. She's got all sorts of stuff that do offer this kind of typography. So you could always print a few ledger sheets out, print a few envelopes out, and fussy cut the words out and stick them to it, and it would look different. There's no kind of escaping that it would look different, but equally cool. So I think that's a great concept to try as well if you didn't have so many stamps to play with, is to print a few of her digitals with a lot of writing on and different kinds of font, fussy cut the bits out that you want to use and pair them together on an ID card or this kind of format. She's also got, I think would work well, she's got the petite paper strips. They've got loads of little kind of sections already cut out for you that you could pair together. So really worth having a try if you haven't got any stamps, if you did like this concept. Even if you wanted to print them out in black and white, so they're all kind of the same colour when you print your lettering out, that would be nice to try as well. So the tools I've used are my corner rounder, obviously, just around the edges, but again you could do that with scissors if you wanted to. Stapler, no rhyme or reason, just like the kind of metal touch on things, so I've just generally added a staple per photograph. Stamps and scissors and glue, and obviously my distressing tool, and that really is it. So super simple concept, and I will link a few videos of people that do this way better than me. So I'll link some videos below of people that have got tutorials on making these ID cards, and you'll find that lots of people have different ways of looking at them as well. I'm more of the loose kind of way where I don't really care however authentic it looks. I just know it looks nice to my eye, so that's kind of all that matters. but there are plenty of videos where people offer different perspectives on them and how to maybe make them look more authentic. So I just wanted to give you a few ideas of what you might use these for, because you might look at these and think, okay, yeah, nice, pretty, but what would I use them for? So they're really versatile. You could use them obviously just as some nice petite journaling cards. They've got space on the background. They're nice and small to fit in a pocket or a tuck, and you've got a nice journaling card. You could obviously add a hole reinforcer, put some twine in there, and that would be a nice cute tag. You could maybe manipulate the edges to make them more tag-like. You could mount them onto a plain background. Now this is what I liked, and I think I'll do in the future, is you can mount them onto something that the size of a journal cover, and just with that plain background, it makes that more of a focal point and almost pares it down a little bit. And I think that to me is a really nice journal cover. Maybe add some velvet trim there, and to me that's something I'd have as a journal cover. They're really easy to batch make as well, so that's something that I obviously did with this, is I batch made them, and they're nice just to pull out and use as and when. Maybe if you've not got them for a project specifically, but if you batch made them, then you could use them in whatever you're doing. They'd also be nice for the Rolodex. If you made them into the Rolodex size, they would be nice in those Rolodex kind of things that people do. They'd also be nice if they're a little bit more reinforced. So if I was going to do this idea, I would either put some tape down the bend, or I'd back this with something a little bit stronger. They'd be nice as a journal wrap. So if you punched a hole here and a hole at the back, put some twine through or some sari silk through, that could be a journal closure. Or you could paper clip it onto a journal page, so you've got those two sides that are decorated. But yeah, so just wheeled off a few ideas for you guys if you kind of wondering what you could use them for. There's just a few ideas for you. I'm sure there's lots more of versatility, but there's just a few that hopefully get you all kind of inspiration flowing. But yeah guys, so that is my design team project for today. I think I am going to give these to my Patreon supporters. I sort of do want to expand on this idea, maybe make a journal, or maybe just introduce them into some of my more grungier journal styles, and maybe in my floral ones too, with the idea of using floral ID cards rather than photographs. Yeah guys, I hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you so much for joining me again today. Please check out the links below, and I'll also list all of Heather's digitals that I use below if you wanted to create some yourself. So alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again. Bye bye.